What's necessary though is again, it's quality, not quantity. It's sort of when they do come home after a long day and they want to share something about their work, actively listen to that. Don't try to solve the problem for them. Just listen and get curious. Geez. Yeah, it must have been. How did that make you feel? It shows that you're listening, that you're actually present and you're not somewhere else. And because you have no time management and you got 2,000 things in your head because of having no time management. And therefore, you can't focus on the person. And if you're in some sort of conflict during that time, like if it's not a pleasant conversation, try again to be in the present and listen with intent to try to understand your partner's perspective. Betrayal, breakups, repairs, detached, dismissive, toxic. Ouch! Relationships can be a lot of work and nasty at times. Are you having trouble finding the one? Not to worry. As a relationship therapist and coach for 25 years, I have a lot to share, and so will my guest experts. Let's bring the fun back in because loneliness is not an option in my world. So let's get on with the show. Welcome to episode number 2 of Mixing Business with Pleasure. So today I want to talk to you about the importance of listening. It's a pretty simple concept, but it's something that a lot of people struggle with. And there's a difference between listening to someone and hearing someone, right? A lot of this has to do with self-awareness and the ability to attend in the moment. But I want to talk to you like why this is so important and we're going to talk about, okay, it's imperative that we get this right because it not only makes a huge difference in our personal relationships, it makes a huge difference in our ability to climb the corporate ladder and really do well at our careers. One of the biggest reasons that I created this new podcast is because I feel like I have this real desire to bring more of our career into our personal lives and our personal lives into our career. And I know I've said this before, but I'm just going to reorientate you again about it because like I strongly feel like we can have both. I know a lot of people who actually love their career. And I think one of the reasons why we love our career is because we have so many different options nowadays. It's sometimes I have clients that come in to my office and tell me what their career is. And I have to ask them, like, can you explain that more? I have no idea what that even means, and there's so many different things that we can do nowadays. I just don't feel like there's a reason not to love your job, and I know a lot of people are still, though, more in that closed mind state and think, oh, it must be nice for you. But I disagree. Like, I feel if you don't love your job or many aspects of your job, like obviously we don't love every single thing, but the majority of the parts of your job that you like, then you need to start looking somewhere else because I feel life is way too short to be miserable in your work. Um, and we got to realize like it's 7.5, 8, 9, 10 hours of our day that we're doing this. And with flex work schedules now, I mean, some of us do it on the weekends. And I mean, there's going to be another argument to this saying that perhaps, we don't take enough personal time or family time, and you know, we're too involved with our careers, and that's why people are completely disconnected. But as I go on with this episode, you're going to realize how we can have both. But it just takes an awareness and a skill to be able to have both, because to me it's more of quality time than quantity. um okay, so let me get into it. I started off by saying time is seemingly very scarce in our world, and a lot of people will say it's because we're trying to do too much, and I totally agree with that. I totally agree. So, okay, there's let's take a scenario first in business. Um, in the boardroom, for example, like one of your colleagues has described an idea to you, or just proposes an idea, or you're working as part of a team, and someone has this idea, and right away, perhaps you dismiss it because you don't think it's going to work. And you can be very quick to stand out and say all the reasons it's not going to work. And I'm just asking you then, to rather than doing that right away, maybe just instead not make a statement, but actually propose the question. Why do you think this is going to work? And not in a sarcastic way, right? Like it's just sort of get inquisitive, get curious, ask them about their thought process as to why they feel this is the best solution for the problem. And if you give people that grace, that time, that the gift of time, then you might be surprised what they come up with, right? And you have to also see that if you're very quick to jump in and tell them all the reasons why it's not going to work, you have to realize that's a bit of an ego thing. It's like, oh, let me just jump in here and, you know, be the peacock in the middle of the boardroom, flexing my feathers and telling you all the reasons, right? It's sort of like, look at me, and these are the reasons, rather than maybe just sit back. And if someone asks your opinion, um, then you can give it. And it may be that it's a very important part of the solution that they're not looking at. And yeah, obviously you're just not going to sit in silence and not say anything if it's very, very meaningful, right? So use your discretion. But I think people are very quick to give their 2 cents when no one has asked them for it. There's that. There's impulsivity that I'm speaking of. And they think that they're helping, but I think they have to realize that they actually just want to be, the center of attention in that situation. I mean, I feel like the people that give the best ideas are often the most quiet people in the room. like Charlie, you know, in the corner of the room there that rarely says anything. But when he does say something, everybody like just stops and looks at him because they know that whatever comes out of his mouth is not so much quantity but quality. So, do you want to be somebody that's full of quantity rather than quality? I mean, I'd rather be the person that pauses, reflects, makes sure they're not being overly judgmental or opinionated, and then speak. But again, don't speak in statements all the time. Try to start speaking more with I shouldn't say declarative statements. Stop speaking with so many declarative statements and instead use interrogative. Start asking more questions. Start being curious and inquisitive. I mean, those are personality and characteristic traits that I think most people would love in somebody, right? Because going back to the gift of time, who, who, what kind of person nowadays like stops and listens, like actually listens to the person and actually gets curious? Um, Rather than just sort of getting impatient and thinking, get to the point because I'm in a rush. I don't have time for this. And what is it that you're rushing off to? The next hit, the next meeting. When I mean hit, I mean the next dopamine hit, the next email, the whatever makes you feel like you're important. That's what you're running after. Everybody wants to feel important. Everybody wants to feel like, yeah, there's something that they have to get to. Otherwise, the world's going to crumble. When I'm working with clients sometimes and they're having difficulty, with time management, because, like, believe me, it's not like I'm have my career and personal life all perfect, and that's why I always say, it's a myth to think that we're ever going to have some sort of balance with both. But when I feel overwhelmed because there is 1,000 things to do, which it seems like every single day, um to look at that list, first of all, make a list. I mean, that's so important, because otherwise this is all just jumbled in your head. So make a list, and see which of those lists is a priority. Um, Something I try to do is always stay focused to what my goal is. And you know, that depends, right, on perhaps the day or the week, but pick out your long-term goal vision and don't make it 5 years into the future. Make it, in the next month or 2 months or 3 months. And here um, are the goals towards that vision. And then underneath the goals, you're going to say an action plan towards that goal, right? Because we can't just, again, hypothetically talk about these goals and ways we want to change our behavior without actually becoming very purposeful and diligent about it. So there's your goals and your action steps, the behaviors, the changes that you're going to make, that you're going to do. But then underneath that, again, like what's the priority for this week of all those action steps? Because some things are going to take more priority than others. And you got to realize some weeks and days are just going to be like completely screwed up because of this unexpected event that happened, and just give yourself, forgiveness for that happening. But I call, okay, so there's goals, action plans, or tactics. But then there's also, to me, a things to do list that's always going on in the background. And I don't find that's part of, I mean, just like the booking vaccinations for your pet at the vet, like just making that phone call or ordering that item that, you need or whatever. And sometimes for me, it's sort of like giving myself the gift of reading up on the certain article that, popped up, and I don't have time during my day to read it, but it's something I really want to do. And so I'll write that down on that list of things to do. And I'll scratch those off as it goes. So that's going to change every week. Hopefully, you're not passing too many of those things on to the next week. Otherwise, your list is way too long and you're going to have to minimalize that. So I gave you an example of, how we need to talk less and listen more in our careers, in our workplace, but nothing is more, obvious to me than in our personal lives, in our personal relationships, because I think that's why so many couples are struggling right now because of this lack of time and perceived lack of time and perceived lack of having the time to connect to one another. Now, granted, this does not take a lot of time to connect with one another, but it's those small moments during the day, though, that people are really dropping the ball. It's those times where, you know, I don't know, let's say you're someone who doesn't text or call their partner very much during the day because you do each have busy lives, and you when you're at work, you got your work, game face on. So you don't tend to communicate too much during the day. So if you do get a text or you do get a call, you realize it's very meaningful and you drop whatever you're doing and actually like actively listen to the person. And as I say this right now, I kind of like, honestly, it could be that I'm approaching a 26-year marriage and we're far, far past the honeymoon stage. Like, like, and I don't know. I mean, I could be an outlier. Maybe everybody else who's been married 26 years or is still in the honeymoon phase, but I highly doubt it. But we don't feel the need to be sending each other texts all day or phone each other. It's like if it's super important, we'll do it during our work day. But and maybe part of it is having adult children. I don't know. When your kids are smaller, maybe there is a need to do that, but honestly, like it's very little. Um, and I think it's healthy. Like, I think, again, I'm saying mixing business with pleasure, but like, yeah, like, if you're going to say have a good day or hope your afternoon's going well, for sure. But, I don't know if it's just small talk, then no, no, like, no. But if it's encouragement or if it's just, your partner's having a bad day, that's what I mean. It shouldn't be all the time. It should be just moments, days in during the month or whatever that might be necessary. or maybe someone close to you, a family member, is passed away or suffering. Like, I mean, these things happen, and we want to connect in a loving way that way. But otherwise, no, it's not necessary. And what's necessary, though, is again, it's quality, not quantity. It's sort of when they do come home after a long day and they want to share something about their work, um, actively listen to that. Don't try to solve the problem for them. Just listen and get curious. Geez, yeah, it must have been. How did that make you feel? Oh, mm, um, yeah, just like, you know, it shows that you're listening, that you're actually present and you're not somewhere else. And because you have no time management and you got 2,000 things in your head because of having no time management. And therefore, you can't focus on the person. Um, and if it's, if you're in some sort of conflict during that time, like, try to actually, because I mean, not every conversation is going to be a pleasant one. So if it's not a pleasant conversation, try again to be in the present and listen with intent to try to understand your partner's perspective rather than going into the past of possible resentment that you're feeling, or rolling your eyes, or the body language you use. I mean, that's all very interpersonal form of intelligence, to be able to read the person's body language and eyes and everything, and tone of voice. And if they're not speaking at a tone of voice or the posture that makes a conversation very productive, again, just like it would be in business, us in a respectful way, then you are allowed to leave that conversation, because it's going to go nowhere if it's full of criticism, contempt, finger pointing, yelling, and defensiveness. It's not going to go anywhere. So think about that. Okay. Then if you see that you can't focus because of the body language, then let that person know and ask if something about that interpersonal conversation that's not going well. Check into yourself using intrapersonal intelligence and say, I don't feel safe here. And when I don't feel safe, that means I'm going to be emotionally dysregulated because I'm in one of the freeze, fight, fawn modes. So that this is not going to work. Like, this conversation is not going to work because I don't feel safe. So again, that's using intra with an A, personal intelligence. And interpersonal intelligence is just being able to read the communication partner that you're with. So, I mean, this is very, very important. Checking in with yourself, your body, how do you feel? And maybe, just taking some deep breaths and making sure, like, am I feeling safe in this conversation? And then don't just bolt, but tell the person what they could do to make you feel safer, and seeing if that works before. And if they're not able to bring down the tone, bring down all the other four forces of the apocalypse that John and Julie Gottman talk about, then we're going to have to do this again another time because this is not working and it will not be effective. Okay. But let's say they are doing these things. Again, we we need to actively listen and get curious with them. Why do you feel that way? Tell me like how this happened. Why do you want to go away with the guys next weekend? Um, rather than, what? Like what is it about you that wants to go away? Tell me more. Like it's so quick to go into like, again, the self and the ego and but I want you to stay home. I in describing, you know, your needs and I get it that there's a time and place for that. But first allow that person to describe what their needs are and why. Try your best to actively listen, to validate their needs. And even what I try to get my couples to do is even parrot it back to them. Like repeat what they said just back to you. Because that way, if you were in the past or the future, you might not have even heard them say something. So you need clarification to know, did they say what I think they said? um, and then, you know, validate them in terms of their reasons why and how they feel. And then you get to say, you get to do everything that they just did. You ask them to listen and do not interrupt and explain the best you can as to your thought process behind this. So, that's why I feel like if we take more of our collegial approaches in our conversations with our partners, we tend to use a lot more respect, a lot more active listening, less interrupting, more kindness. I don't know about how much compassion we have, during our workday for our colleagues, but like, it's just sort of like, yeah, it tends to work quite well. I mean, even at home, if we do it in that way. And I know that most people um, want to feel respected. So give them the respect in terms of the distance, between you and your partner when you're having a conversation, the respect of the distance, the respect of not being interrupted, not being yelled at, not being, you know, criticized, being curious with one another. Um, I mean, I could go on and on. And, but it sort of depends on, again, your awareness. Like, again, your body awareness, I'm feeling tense. I don't feel safe. Um, and so it's triggering to me. Now, why is it triggering to me? Why do I feel threatened right now? It could be, again, it could be a valid threat if they are speaking a certain way to you. But if they're not, then you got to realize that something deeper within you that you might need some assistance with. So, yeah, it's sometimes I hear people saying, yeah, relationships are hard. You're darn right. I feel like they are very, very hard because we're so individualistic. we all have different levels of intelligence. Some people have more intelligence in interpersonal or intrapersonal skills, while others have more intelligence in, you know, cre- creativity or, I mean, there's just so many different aspects of intelligence. Maybe those lawyers out there are very good with linguistics type of intelligence. Um, and others are more, I don't know, very, very good in doing things with their hands or like spatially, I know I'm not. There's it's interesting. Um, or maybe some people are just amazing athletes and that's the ability to move the way they can and what it takes to be able to be an amazing athlete, right? I mean, we just have to be aware of these things and not shooting ourselves that we're stupid. Like, I mean, why take a such a wide, stroke on yourself like that? And no, there's special qualities about you. There's special areas of intelligence that you have that the next person next door does not have. And you need to um celebrate that and see that. And if you're having trouble seeing that, then maybe see a therapist because there's nobody on this earth that does not have these skills, um, this level of intelligence. We all do. You're just not able to maybe see it right now. So just get a little help from a friend. And seriously, because if you ask a friend, what value do I bring? Um, I think they would have lots to say. Um, I mean, celebrate that type of intelligence, whether again, whether it's just like there's so many, I mean, musical intelligence. I mean, we all have those our favorite um producers or singers that we just like, what a skill. Or maybe those people that can read nature so well. Like look at Jane Goodall. Like it's just or the comedians. Um, there are real artists out there, or the mathematicians. Um, it's you look at it and you're thinking, oh my gosh, like I mean, and then it's philosophers, existential intelligence, those people that just are just such um contributors of thought and metacognition, and we need all of you. We need all of you. So I mean, if I was to speak about myself and my levels of intelligence, I would say intrapersonal is something that I've been not far from perfect on, but it's something I've been working on a lot. Interpersonal, I would think so as a therapist and coach, but again, not and far from perfect. I love thinking about existential parts of me and thought, and the meaning of life and the purpose of life. Mathematical, I'm working on it. It's definitely not a highlight in my life. Working with numbers. Musical, no. I missed I, yeah, I wasn't there that day when when they were handing out musical talent. Um, yeah, and then I think, there's just different areas like, obviously it's not you don't have all of one and none of the other, but like you just got to realize your talents, and celebrate that and show yourself some love and some compassion and do more of that. Stop trying to do things that you're not good at and get rejected over and over. It's like those are the kind of things that we hire other people for. Or yeah, we just do less of. Um, but yeah, it's like that's what you have to think. It's like stop comparing yourself so much and just sort of look at yourself for what you can do. And also, I mean, don't shut yourself down right away too. Like sometimes it is just a skill. And how much time and effort are you putting into that skill? I think I've talked about this before too. Is sort of if I'm not skilled in music or maybe um more of the creative parts of me or the logical parts of me, more mathematician things, maybe accounting, bookkeeping, and things like that. That's a skill. There's many of these things that they're all skills. What am I saying? Many, they're all skills. If you want to bring up your level of intelligence in anything, it's a matter of honing that skill and practicing over and over. I do believe that. Now, some people are more prone to attaining a certain skill than others, but it's because they're good at it, is that they want to practice that skill over and over. So, yes, inherently, some of us do have certain tendencies to be better than others. Some people absolutely hate exercise and just try to incorporate movement throughout their day, whether that's taking the stairs or walking to work because they can't stand the idea of lifting a weight or anything. And so great, like um but it really just comes down to how meaningful that is to you, whether or not you're going to make that a priority. And if it's meaningful enough, then learn the skill and yeah, be proud of yourself once you get there. So I think I covered what I wanted to cover, more or less, in the idea of giving each other time and actively listening, um, because because the value of connection is so so strong. I mean, this is how we can think of attaining, that skill I was just talking to you about, is like what value are you putting on it? What value are you actually putting on connecting? What value and I think I'm hoping I take some shame and guilt away from the equation here when I say it's the quality and not the quantity. I also work with a lot of people who have decided to uncouple, and the thought of not having your kids with you 100% of the time can be devastating for people. But when I remind them about the quality and not the quantity, they seem to be able to adapt much easier and much faster in that sense. Um, so that's why it's not that difficult, guys. If you if you're actually in the present, in the moment, when you're having that discussion, it doesn't have to be a lot of time together. It might be a quick conversation in the grocery store with someone that you just happen to be bumping in with all the time. I know sometimes this happens to me. I'm like in the produce section and I go to get some mushrooms, and then um this person's there and you make little like small talk with the person, and then you're getting some avocados and that same person's there. And you're like, okay, and you just like, you start talking about whatever, like the quality of the avocados, or, you make a joke. Like, I don't know. It's just sort of like, just don't be so like close-minded and think I don't have time to talk, or, um, just allow yourself these opportunities that are given to us very, very often. Like when it comes to like, this whole idea of I never meet anybody, or it's so difficult to have a new friend, or I mean, open yourself to these opportunities. They're often all around us, but we're too busy to see them, or we need to get on to the next thing so quickly, and we do not see them. So open-mindedness, widen that aperture, like just allow yourself to have these opportunities, and allow yourself to get to know the person more by giving yourself more time, and slowing things down a little bit. Like, again, no one's gonna die, probably, if you don't get that thing done on your to-do list. Believe me, I have had a lot of things to do today, and I did about 3 of them so far. But yeah, tomorrow's another day. So I hope that was helpful. To sum it up, think about what you value, put that as a priority. Don't just talk about it, write it down, write the action steps towards attaining that goal, what you value, and be in the moment when you're having a conversation with someone. Practice your intrapersonal intelligence and interpersonal intelligence, and do it on repeat, because nothing's really more important than that if we're talking about connecting with people. Have a good week, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye. Thanks for tuning in to this episode. Remember that you can watch the full episode on YouTube, where I plan to hang out the most. Your feedback and suggestions for future guests are incredibly valuable to me, so please don't hesitate to post a comment. You are an integral part of this journey.